Hi class, it's Dr. Mirando. For each week, I like to walk through the assignments with you guys through these short videos, just to give you a little bit more explanation of each assignment and hopefully clear up some questions before they arise. So this week, the first thing you're doing is giving me a little bit of information about yourself. I know that sometimes you want to skip this section and just think, who cares? But I would like to learn a little bit about you. We only have 5 weeks together, so if you can go through these questions and at least just give me a little bit of an idea of who you are, who's sitting on the other end of these computers, that would be great. As for me, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you here. I'm Karen Mirando, and I am in Stowe, Ohio, which is near Cleveland. I am a full-time faculty member here at Argosy University, and my degree is actually in industrial organizational psychology, which is essentially what we're studying here, business psychology. So this is something that is near and dear to my heart, and I love studying, and I'm passionate about it, and I can't wait to share a bit of that with you guys. Our second thing for the first week is our discussion question, which is due on Saturday. It's very important that you guys get your discussions posted by Saturday so that we have plenty of time to discuss them and interact. So our question here is this: studies have indicated that a large majority of individuals would continue working even if they didn't have to. Why do you feel work plays such a vital role in the life of an individual regardless of money? Do you believe that different cultures place different levels of value on work? What individual differences are playing a role here? So basically it's asking, why would people work even if they didn't have to? And I really want you guys to put some research behind your ideas. I want to hear what you personally think, but I want you to also support it with research. So one way you could incorporate research here is that it's asking, do you believe that different cultures place different levels of value on work? And here, how to incorporate research, I gave you a little tip on a researcher that's done a lot of cultural research, and his name's Hofstede, and he has these cultural dimensions that looks at different countries. So anytime I have links in here, I usually just open the link in the next tab. And what I've done here is compared South Korea to the United States. You can do any country you want, but this kind of gives you one idea of how cultural differences impact how we view the world, how we view work. And you can see here one difference that I pointed out. Oh, I actually didn't contrast it with the United States, so let me do that really quick. And this is something that will come in handy for your week 1 paper. So you want to pay attention to this website because it's a neat one. So here I just picked South Korea because I know there tends to be a lot of cultural differences. You can see here one of the biggest differences is in the dimension of individualism. South Korea has an 18, which means they're very low in individualism or high in group thinking. They prefer to work in teams, think about the good of the group, whereas the United States is very high in individualism. We're kind of in it for ourselves for the most part. So how do you think that might impact how they view work? That is one example of how you could incorporate research. Another one, in your textbook, you're reading through chapters 1, 2, and 3 this week. Let me get back to where I was in chapter 1. Chapter 1 I was reading through. Not sure why it's giving me this now. Okay, chapter 4. I don't want chapter 4. Bear with me. Let's see, I was looking at generational differences. Generational differences is just another way another dimension of culture that we can look at. So in chapter 1, there's a little bit of a blurb on different generations and different values that they have. So that's another way to incorporate research, is to look at the generation that you're a part of, or the generation, compare that to your parents or grandparents or kids, and look at how that cultural dimension impacts your view of work. Okay, then you're also looking at individual differences that play a role in employees' decision whether to quit or continue working. Those are kind of some of your own ideas here. If you would want to quit or if you want to keep working, what is it about you that makes you want to do that? I think this is an interesting question. We can have some good research, or excuse me, discussion on this. Okay, then your other assignment for week 1 is a paper that you're going to write as an email. So good news for you, it's going to be a shorter paper, really just a couple pages is all we're looking for here. And the scenario here is a production manager, Mark, has been transferred from the United States to a plant in Japan. So you should imagine that you are an IO psychologist. If you don't know what an IO psychologist is, Chapter 1 does a good job of explaining that. If you're confused, please don't ever hesitate to let me know. So what you're going to do is using Hofstede's cultural dimensions. This says 5 basic elements. I like to go by the 6 listed here in the website that I showed you. If you find a resource that only has 5, that's fine though. You're going to write an email to the Vice President of Production discussing at least 3 cultural differences that Mark will experience. So a great way to tackle this assignment is to go right to that thing that I showed you, that website, and make the comparison, Japan. So now we have data on Japan, and you can compare that to the United States. So Mark was coming from the United States, which is in blue here, going to Japan, and it very nicely lays out all of the cultural differences that Mark will encounter. And if you scroll down on here, it even goes and gives specific descriptions of everything and the differences that exist. So this is a great resource. I highly recommend you use it for this paper. So here on the rubric, I always like to follow the rubrics because that's what I'm looking at when I grade. So that's a great thing for you guys to look at to make sure you have everything included in the paper. First, you need to demonstrate you understand Hofstede's cultural dimensions, distinctions, whatever you want to call them. You're basically just going through his 5 or 6 dimensions and giving just a real, very, very brief definition of each. Then you want to look at specifically the differences between Japan and the United States. Here is a great resource. I just kind of laid it right out for you. You need to include at least 3 of these and give a brief explanation of 3 cultural differences that Mark will encounter working in Japan versus the United States. Next, you want to address what role cultural differences may play in individual differences. And basically, you're giving Mark some specific scenarios here, a specific example. You've just told him how the culture is different between Japan and the United States, but here you just want like a short blurb on how that might actually impact workers that he encounters. So it says prepare an email, which is what I said to you, just a couple pages. Because it says prepare an email, that means, don't go crazy. You don't need to hand in an 8 or 9 page paper. That means you've probably done too much. And this is probably, I would say this is the guts of the email. This is the most important part, is that you need to come up with a minimum of 3 recommendations to minimize transition problems. So you're telling Mark, here is exactly what I recommend you do in order to make things easier as you transition from the United States to Japan. So you're going to be incorporating that information, the cultural differences, and telling him exactly what to do, how a manager can take up these tasks overseas. What can he do to make things easier? Does that make sense? As you write your paper, I always suggest using headings at the very least. This helps you organize your thoughts. It helps me see an organized paper and make sure I can find all these sections as I'm grading. This video has been a little bit longer than my videos usually are, so fear not, in future weeks, hopefully it won't take this long, but I really wanted to go into detail and make sure you guys understood what I expect of you for the first week. Never hesitate to contact me. Email and text are the best ways because I have 3 small kids at home, and so it's kind of hard to talk on the phone a lot of times. So my contact information is on the course home. please, please, please don't hesitate to contact me if you have a question. I'm here. Have a good day.